Do you have trouble sticking to a diet program? Do you have trouble sticking to a workout program? And do you have a trouble with consistency? And I don't mean it like that. I mean it the other way. Let me explain. Consistency can very easily become monotony, and monotony can kill sustainability. What's one of the biggest complaints about having a healthy diet? Oh my God, I got to eat boring food all day. Oh, good. Leaves and twigs is all I get to eat now. Wonderful. Well, what if that doesn't work? It can still work. You can be consistent without being consistent. Let me show you a couple things. This is my average weight over the last year. See, there's some fluctuation to it. That is not because of my diet. That's not because of my eating. That's absolutely fluctuations in my activity. See my step count? Look how closely this matches up. See that? See that? See that? See that? You might think for that to match up so closely, my diet must be the same goddamn thing every day. Always hitting my maintenance calories of around 3,000 calories a day. Always hitting my macro targets of the acceptable macronutrient distribution range. That's what you might think. That's what you might presume. That's what all of the common wisdom about fitness and health and how you should eat teaches us. Well, here's what I ate for the last 6 months. Oh yeah, look how consistent that is. Oh my God, I'm hitting my targets every single day, aren't I? But bear with me, I want to demonstrate how this radical inconsistency on a day-to-day level nevertheless adds up to consistency on a monthly level, on a yearly level. Yeah, strap in for some math, but it'll be worth it. My nutrition overview for the last year averaged out about 3,000 calories a day, average 3,000 calories a day, a little bit over. That's my maintenance calories. Now, I do want to go through these line by line just to show how this ridiculous mess really can average out and turn into legitimate consistency in a balanced, healthy diet range. The acceptable macronutrient distribution range. Protein, still 10% to 35% of total calories. Recommended daily allowance, they've doubled it. Now it's 1.2 to 1.6 grams per kilogram. I make a point of hitting that every day, coming out to an average of about 160 grams a day, times 4 calories, divided by 3,000 for the percentage, 21%. Fats, it looks like I'm over here. That's because I set my goal pretty low, because fat is so easy to eat. It's everywhere and everything. So I give myself a bit of a speed limit on that, and then I speed a bit. 93 grams a day, 9 calories per gram. That's why fat is dangerous. It's twice the calories of everything else. Divided by 3,000, 0.279, that's 28%. Of total calories, the accepted macronutrient distribution range for fat is 20 to 35%, right in the zone. Carbohydrates, that zone being 45 to 65% of total calories. 348 times 4 calories per gram for carbohydrates, divided by 3,000, 0.46, a little over 45%. Not only is it in that zone, it's the low end of the zone. Sorry to harp so much on carbohydrates, but geez, diet culture and their disdain for carbohydrates that we have to get over. It's just a ploy, it's a rhetorical ploy, it's a trick to try to stop you from eating junk food. And by junk food, I mean food that's actually high in added fats. I want you to not eat carbs because then you won't eat a donut, where the problem with the donut is actually the fat in the cream and the fat in the donut. People telling you don't eat carbs are actually trying to trick you into not eating so much fat. Which is then very ironic when people then say, oh my God, then I'm going to eat all the fat in the world, and they just defeat their own purpose. Sorry for that digression, but for God's sake, seriously, balanced diet, the acceptable macronutrient distribution range defines that. That's what we want to do. That means carbohydrates, and that means fiber, because fiber is in that carbohydrate recommendation. Over the last year, I've eaten an average of over 35 grams of fiber a day. That's a little bit short. I should be getting 42. 90% is still an A in the class. And frankly, that 14 grams per 1,000 calories really is contemplating people eating more, closer to 2,000 calories a day. Oh, but what about the sugars? What about the simple sugars? There's limits on that. Less than 25% of total calories from simple sugars. Less than 10% of total calories from added sugars. Simple sugars and added sugars, like the sugar in my coffee and like the sugar in my donut. All my sugars come out to around 18% of total calories, and my added sugars come out to less than 5. And so what about the fat inside this donut, the saturated fat? The limit on that is 10% of total calories. I average out for the year at less than 10%. Thank you for sticking with me. The moral of that story is you don't actually have to be hyper consistent in your diet. You don't have to be perfect day to day to day. You could be erratic day to day to day as long as the average averages out. Let me give you the anecdote of why that's important. Memorial Day weekend, I go out to a barbecue with the family. My sister-in-law, God love her, she knows that I look after myself. She knows I look after her health. So presumptively, amongst all the delicious food, she also has roasted chicken breast. It's a classic healthy protein source. In fact, my staple protein source when I'm eating at home. She offers it to me like that's what I would want at a family barbecue because I look after myself. Not on your fucking life. I was a little bit more polite to her than that, but absolutely I declined that because that's not the venue for that, and that's the thing that kind of will screw up your consistency and screw up your sustainability. This psychology that you have to be so consistent, you don't ever get to go to a Christmas ever again. You don't ever get to go to a barbecue ever again. You don't get to have any fun ever again. You always have to be on point on a diet every single day. That is a toxic psychology. That will fuck you up. Because monotony kills. It turns a diet from something that's good for you and good for your health into something that's destroying your enjoyment of life. We got to make a point of this. 5,000 calories worth of eating on that day. Start off boxed cereal. In the train station, onion rings, deviled eggs, beer, wine, cheeseburger, brownies, macaroni and cheese. That family barbecue is not the time for the chicken breast. If you're having the chicken breast as your staple food when you're at home. Some people can do it that way. Some people can live that life. I can't. And if you can't also, you got to have the variation. And if I haven't made my point enough, the variation doesn't have to sacrifice nutrition. Here's all the vitamins and minerals. Look, the line in the middle is the RDA. Look how I exceed the RDA on average over the course of a year. And some of you may even take issue with those beers and that wine. But let me show you this. Alcohol is 7 calories a gram. The USDA alcohol recommendations stay under 28 grams worth a day. Yes, of course, alcohol is poison at any dose, but the dose also makes the poison. Even something as obviously unhealthy for you as alcohol is tolerable within limits provided you're otherwise maintaining your body in a state that can tolerate it. Goes into a larger point. I also live in Manhattan. I'm breathing in car fumes every day. People are always on and on about microplastics, how that's in everything, and that's a poison. It isn't about trying to live in a plastic bubble where you avoid all the poisons and you eat a perfect diet and you're 100% perfect all the time, every day, trying to live like some kind of monk in a monastery, worshiping to the god of fitness. It's about maintaining your body in a way that you can enjoy and engage life, not hide from it. And that does mean moderation in all things, including consistency. Now, in this last minute, though, why does everybody tell you to be consistent all the time? That's about the implementation. It's incredibly easy to just eat the same thing every day. It's incredibly easy to not worry about parties if you're not going to engage and enjoy yourself at the party. Having that variation requires budgeting. It requires balancing out luxury with frugality, excess with temperance. That's an accounting problem. And that's why I have all of those numbers to show you, because that's how I handle it. I handle it by making it an accounting problem, a measurement problem, a keeping track of what I'm doing problem, instead of a monotony problem. What balance ultimately works best for you, you're going to have to figure out. But there's not just one way to do it. There used to be the Stoics and the Epicureans. You can be an Epicurean and not be fat.